Hi.
Nice
How's it
to see
going?
you. Good. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about you?
I would love that. So hi everyone. I'm Cynthia Boyede. I live in Hamilton now, but I'm originally from Nigeria. I like to call myself a storyteller because I just love what stories can do for like bridging gaps in educating folks and also entertaining us because sometimes people forget about the entertainment aspect of storytelling. I do makeup. I have a YouTube channel. It used to be called Broke Fat and, but now it's just under my name, Cynthia Boyede. And I do makeup. I explore fashion. I talk about a lot of fat stuff because I am fat and I self-identify as fat as a way of reclaiming that word. A lot of people think like if you have oily skin, then you shouldn't hydrate as much or use as much oils. But really, not being hydrated is just telling your body it needs more oils, so it overproduces oils. So I usually like to hydrate and be like, "We're good, we're good."
I actually learned that recently too, because I was always like, oh, like if I'm like super oily or something, like don't moisturize, like don't put any more on. But I was
No,
like, this makes a lot of sense. Like if you're not moisturizing, your body's gonna produce more so that you are moisturized. So that's totally makes sense.
sunscreen. Everyone needs sunscreen. Every single person. I get people ask like, "Oh, you're black. You must not need sunscreen." Do I have skin?
Yeah. If
Is
you
the
have
sun
skin,
out?
you need sunscreen.
You need sunscreen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are not a lot of brands that think about black people when they're creating sunscreen. So I get this white cast that I hate so much, but white cast or protecting my
Sun
skin.
damage, yeah.
White cast.
Nice.
Ah,
Sunscreen. You want to advocate for sunscreen. I'm
Please.
very much about that.
please.
Yeah.
And do as much like, and if you can get like moisturizer that has sunscreen, it's great. But I use my moisturizer for day and night,
Okay.
so it makes no sense having one that has sunscreen for nighttime.
Makes sense. Have you ever used like a foundation or anything that has like SPF in it? You like
I've tried some, but again, a lot of brands don't think about black skin. So whenever something has SPF, it turns out gray.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, gotcha. So do you find that like obviously you find like it's less inclusive around brands like that with like skin color?
Yes. And it's so ridiculous because, like, there's studies that have shown that black women spend the most on beauty stuff.
Right.
But we also have fewer options. And a lot of brands will maybe introduce like 20 shades and two of them are for black people. And we know that black people have so many different shades. So it makes no sense. And they're like, oh, we just want to test the market and then we'll release more shades. And by more shades, they mean five more shades for black people. Like 55,000 more for white people. And they're like, we just want to test the market, but like, who are you testing? Because like,
That's the thing.
black people, yeah.
Yeah.
So I find that a lot with many different brands. There are like a few brands, like when Fenty Beauties released like 60 shades,
Yeah.
a few brands woke up, but it's still not as great as it should be. I've always wanted to like promote other people's voices. And like with journalism, you can't really like promote their voices with hope for something better. You have to be like deadpan, and I don't agree with that really.
Like, it's like journalistic bias or whatever.
Yes,
You kind of have to be on one side or the other type of thing.
and I don't like that. There are people who are bad, and you have to say they're bad, and there are people who are good, and you have to like acknowledge that. And there are people who like should have opportunity for change somewhere. So I'm like, okay, this is what you've always wanted to do. PR is your thing. Because with PR, you really get to like work with businesses and like help people like tell stories. So I moved into PR and I was like, this racism thing is in every industry, like even with PR, like this is why I only have like limited options because like they choose which voice or which stories they want to tell
Right.
and who they want to amplify. So I was like, how about I tell stories for specific groups of people whose voices are not being represented. Like
Like
that's
the
what I'm going
oppressed
to do.
voices. Yeah.
Yes. So I went on YouTube. I'm like, I'm sure there are other fat people who are like moving for the joys of moving, and there was no one.
Oh.
Like, if you search like fat on YouTube, it's all like fat bashing. And at the time, it was even worse. Like, it was just like, even now, like, if you search fat, don't search fat. Please don't search fat. It's not, it doesn't help anyone. So yeah, I was just like, okay. At first, I was going to do like mostly like me moving because
Yeah.
I enjoy like dancing. But then I was like, I also don't want to push this idea on people because whenever people see fat people moving, they get weight loss.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, let's tackle the systemic issue first, and then it would make it a safer space for fat people to move
Right.
without anyone coming in to like. And I get a lot of like comments about like how I'm going to die or like people in real life and online, like people just see a fat person and they're like, yes, you are the perfect sounding board for all of my ideas about how you're destroying your life and you're going to die. And I'm like, why do you care if I'm going to die? You don't know me. And also, we are all going to die.
Right? Like,
Sorry
isn't
for
that the only
anyone.
inevitability of life? Like,
Yeah. Like, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, relax your mind. That's why is my dying your business?
Like,
You
stay in your
obviously
lane.
don't care about me because if you cared about me, you probably wouldn't say it like that.
Right.
And if you cared about me, you probably would read some research about like BMI and how it's fat phobic and do some research about how the world makes it harder for me to move in my fat body.
Right.
And like tackle that rather than telling me I'm going to die. Okay, yes, I'm going
That
to die.
doesn't help anyone. Thanks.
Now what? Like, okay, thank you, bye. Like, I don't understand the people, but how do you feel about various movements happening regarding bodies and how they're? Oh, okay. Such a good question. Because let me start with fat movement. So I know I don't associate myself with the body positivity movement because unfortunately it started as a very like innocent, but it's been co-opted unfortunately by white smaller size women. So like you will see a lot of like plus models who have like really flat bellies and like curves.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, that's good for you. Or you'll see smaller sized people trying to contort their bodies to give them folds so they can be like, even though I have these folds, I'm beautiful. Or like someone will stand like and they're like really small and then they'll sit and bend themselves so that they have folds and then they're like, see, this is how I look when I stand. But like every woman has rolls when they sit. But I'm like, ma'am, you're basically bent into a pretzel. Of course you're going to have rolls.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Like, so like I'm really now like I've moved from like body positivity because like we can't all be positive.
Yeah.
Like, and this is like with race too and other things like people expect that when you're speaking out for yourself or like trying to bring a spotlight that you have to show how happy you are in that identity.
Very true.
But like how do you expect me to be happy in an identity that is being oppressed?
Right.
Like you can't expect happiness all the time. Like it's so complicated.
Yeah.
And like so that's what I think. Like I love that it's being celebrated and promoted, but I want to see people also talk about like what the daily struggles are.
Yeah.
And like because honestly, even as I'm like very like about my fatness and I introduce myself as fat, there are days where I will go somewhere and I see the way people look at me and
Yeah.
hear the things people say, and I come back home and I'm like, maybe I should like only eat veggies for this week, or like maybe I should do like a no meat diet for like a few days, or maybe I should, because like there's no, and like even being a fat black woman is like another different level, because like with the black movement, like people are like, let's celebrate black women,
Mhm.
but like there's still fat phobia in that space.
Right.
And in the fat liberation movement, people are like, let's celebrate fat bodies, but like they don't celebrate a lot of black fat bodies.
Mhm.
So like it's weird. I feel like any of these movements, it can't be siloed. Like you have to look at the whole system of oppression,
Yeah. Yeah.
like how it affects all of us, because like you can't just do the work in one thing.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
we're so many different identities, so many. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
so
really did
much. I loved meeting you.
it. Same.
Take care.
Bye.